Hello, I'm Emma. Welcome or welcome back. You are on part 4 of your Fresh Start Beginners Pilates. If you haven't done the other 3 parts, I strongly recommend that you do them. Barely got my words out there. Strongly recommend you do them because they lead on nicely to this one. So build up from them first. I'll leave them in the description. But other than that, grab a little bit of space and we're going to start standing. So again, let me just quickly show you Mr. Bear. My guide dog is sunbathing, look at that. I'm sorry, you go back to sunbathing. So we're going to start standing, and this is how we started our last one. So we done a couple where we started on the mat, and now we're doing a couple standing, and hopefully you should be getting a little bit more familiar and finding more awareness through the body. So just like we did in the last session, we'll find our feet where they're hip distance apart. And we're going to stand nice and tall. We're going to let the shoulders relax away from the ears, and maybe we close down the eyes to find this awareness, this connection through the body. As soon as we switch off one of our main senses, we notice maybe the sounds around us, how the body's feeling. Brings us a little bit more into the present moment. Have a little sway from side to side, back and forth, and find where those feet are nice and equal with the weight. Grow a little taller through the spine, and we'll take a deep breath in through the nose. As you breathe in, wrap your hands around, giving yourself a little hug around your belly, your rib cage more, and feel the rib cage expand. Remember in Pilates, that breathing we've been practicing, we don't breathe into the belly, we breathe high into the rib cage. As you breathe out, feel the belly button pulling away from your clothing, finding that lovely belt around your waist. We breathe in again. And breathe out. Maybe if you can, lift your pelvic floor here as well. So your front, your back toilet muscles slightly lift, 20, 30%. Good, feel your spine lengthening. Your pelvis nice and neutral. And then let the arms drop. We're going to take a couple of roll downs. Let your arms feel heavy by your side as you nod your chin to the chest. Anchoring your tailbone down towards the floor as you peel up and over the legs. So remember, like I said before, imagine your tailbone sliding up a wall. Bend your knees if you need to. Hold onto your legs if you need to. And just reach to where you can. Maybe feel those hamstrings. And then slowly restack all the way up, bone by bone. Again, maybe this is with your eyes closed. Really notice the movement. We'll do one more. I just breathed in hair. We'll do one more, my own hair, not Archie's for once. And we're going to roll all the way down to the mat. And this one will bring us all the way down into a crouch. And we're going to do our rollbacks that we did in our last session, but we're going to build it up a bit. So shimmy right to the front of your mat, so you've got plenty of room behind you to roll back. Feet are grounded, hip distance apart. They're not too close, they're not too far away, just nice comfortable distance. And we're going to wrap the hands around the back of the legs, and we're going to grow nice and tall through the spine. When you're ready, we're going to come into that curve we did before. We're going to roll back, tucking our pelvis under, rolling our hip bones in towards us, finding that lovely rocking off of the pelvis and that scoop. Relax the shoulders. And then when you come up, keep that curve until the shoulders go over the hip bones, and then grow nice and tall through the spine. We'll go a couple more times here, and then we're going to try it with the arms off. In fact, on the next one, we're going to do that. So scoot back one more time. And then we come up, we bring the shoulders over the hips, we sit nice and tall. And on this next one, see if you can do it with the arms reaching in front at shoulder height. Don't worry if you need to hold back on. We're going to scoop in. Just like a cat stretch where we find that scoop. We relax the shoulders, and maybe we can scoop a little lower this time. We pull the belly button away from our clothing. We come up in that curve. We bring our shoulders over our hips, And then we restack. And maybe you need to hold back onto the legs to pull yourself up that little bit taller. Let's go a couple more times. You find that scoop. So this is your roll up. Roll up, it's called roll up because as you build up, you do it rolling up and off of the floor. But yeah, it's a really nice one for the spine. It's a really good one for the abs as well. Roll down again, and this time place your hands to the floor and bring yourself all the way down onto your back. So again, your feet are not too close, they're not too far away, they're nice, comfortable distance. Maybe you have a block or a pillow behind your head. Remember what I was talking about alignment. If your head's hanging all the way back, which mine's doing a little bit and I haven't got a block again, then pop a block or a cushion behind your head. Let your shoulder blades relax into the mat and find a nice natural curve through the spine. Place your hands onto your hip bones. Maybe you want to have a little rock from side to side, back and forth, and find where your pelvis is nice and level. Okay. So interlace your fingers behind your head and have the thumbs sliding down your neck. The elbows are not too wide, they're not too narrow, they're somewhere in between. And we're going to practice our curl up. So we take a deep breath in. On the exhale, we nod the chin just a little bit into the chest until we can fit a fist or an orange underneath. So we haven't crunched all the way in to squash it, but it's not hanging all the way back. From there, pull the abdominals in without moving your pelvis and try to bring your chest towards your legs. And then slowly roll back down. Good, we're gonna go again a couple more times here, and then I'm gonna add just that little bit more. So we're coming up to the tips of the shoulder blades. Again, we're trying not to pull on the neck, we're trying to peel off. So again, maybe close your eyes and feel the head coming off. Feel the upper back, maybe down a little bit to the shoulder blades coming off. And then lower. So maybe stay with this. If you've got neck, back or shoulder pain that you're getting, then skip this one. Join in with the next one. But otherwise, see if you can curl up. And see if you can take one arm off. I've got a lovely big click there. And reach it so it's hovered just off of the floor, palm facing down. And then reach the other arm nice and long. Maybe this is enough and you take the hand back behind the head. Then the other hand behind the head. And then you lower. Otherwise, maybe on the next one, we're going to curl up and we're going to come into our 100, but we're not going to do the whole 100. We're going to reach one arm long, then the other. And if it feels okay here, we're going to start to pulse the arms or pump the arms by our side, like we're just splashing them into some water that's by our side. And we're going to breathe in, 2, 3, 4, 5, and out, 2, 3, 4, 5. We breathe in for 5. We breathe out. We try to do that without any other part of the body moving. We're just going to do one more round here. Pull the belly button away from the clothing. And then we stop the arms. We take one hand behind the head, other hand behind the head, and then we slowly lower. And then we stretch long. So as you build up, you'll start to do longer and you'll start to maybe do it with the legs lifted and things, but that comes with time. Okay, when you're ready, we're going to bring the feet back flat on the mat, if they changed, and we're going to have the hands resting on our hip bones. So remember your cups of tea, coffee, balanced on your hips. You want them to stay nice and steady. Okay, let's go for our Pilates march. We lift one leg to tabletop, shin parallel to the ceiling, nothing else is moved, and then we tap it down. And then we switch to the other side. So I'm going to build up a little quicker this time because we've gone over these things and you might want to stay with this. Remember your back is neutral, it's not lifting too much. Or maybe you got a flat back, remember that's where it's an imprinted spine where it's flat on your back. Back is flat on the mat. If you can build this up, you're going to lift one leg and then lift the other. So last time we was lifting one, then the other, placing it down and down. This time we keep the legs up. We're going to move from the thigh bone. We're going to tap the foot down towards the floor, but we come straight back up this time. Okay, so again, as we do this, we don't want anything else to move. We don't want the back to rise. Now, this is quite a lot, and it's a fundamental exercise, but it's really, really challenging. So as you tap down, if you tap too close and just bend the knee, you're not going to feel it. So you want to make sure you're moving your thigh, and then you come straight back up. Now, as you tap the leg down, you don't want the other one to hug in. So really takes a lot of control. Now again, if that feels too much, you can always come back to the march, okay? Otherwise, let's do one more time each side, really slow, anchoring the belly button down, and then we do one more. And then we come up. Maybe hug the knees in for a second and have a little release. And then we're gonna take the arms out to the side. So we've been doing our side lowers with the feet down. Then we added a little extension. Now we're gonna do it with the legs up. So again, if you need your feet back on the floor for this, that's okay. But either way, we're gonna squeeze the legs together. Open the arms out to the side to shoulder height with the palms facing up. The back of the head, the shoulders are melting into warm sand. And you're gonna squeeze your legs together. So they're either down on the floor with the knees bent or up in tabletop. We're gonna move from the pelvis and we're gonna tip over just a teeny tiny bit over to the side. Feel the opposite shoulder and the rib cage anchoring you down to the floor, and then you pull back to center. And then you go to the other side. We tip just a little bit. I don't want you to go too far at the minute. You can build up with other classes for that. And basically just keep tipping from side to side, letting your pelvis lead. So what I don't want you to do is let the legs zigzag. I want you to stay nice and level with the legs. And maybe again, this is still with the feet down, and that's okay. Roll onto the outside of the foot as you tip and come back up. Good, let's go one more time to each side. We're tipping over and then we pull back up. And then we go over to the other side and we pull back up. And then we place one foot down at a time and we come into our bridge. We place the hands onto the hips. We step the feet in just a little bit so the heels are underneath the knees. And now this time we've done a flat back, like a pelvic tilt. We've done a half bridge. Today we're going to do a full bridge. So find your feet hip distance apart. Hands are on your hips. We're going to flatten the back in towards the mat, imprinting the spine, without the shoulder blades leaving the mat. Roll your hips in towards you and slowly peel bone by bone up. Maybe you start with just your pelvic tilt. Maybe we go halfway and then we ripple all the way back down, coming back to our natural curve. And then each time, maybe we start to come up a little bit more. So again, maybe as we come up, we feel we can get a little bit more of the back, and maybe we come up into a full bridge. Now here's where I want you to squeeze the glutes and the legs. So as you peel up, you should feel like a slide from your knees to your shoulders. We're not on the neck is free. And then we let our chest come down, the upper back. We keep tipping the pelvis under as we feel the the middle back, and then the lower back, the pelvis. We come back to a flat back, and then we come back to neutral. Again, roll your hips in. Make sure the legs haven't knocked in. We peel bone by bone. This is just the abs, and then the glutes and the legs kick in as we roll up. We tuck our pelvis under a little bit more. Can we roll those hips in? And then we slowly melt back down through the spine. This is such a nice one for the back, for the abs, for control. We come back to a flat back, then a neutral spine, and we go one more time. Press evenly into the feet as we slowly peel up bone by bone. We find our lovely bridge where the weight is across the shoulders. And then we slowly roll back through the spine, bone by bone. And then we can hug the knees into the chest and have a little rock. Stay there for me. And this is blind problems. I don't know if the camera's still recording. And yeah, I think we're good. So when you're ready, come up to a nice seated position. And We're gonna come into a new exercise. So we're gonna go over onto our side. I just said seated and now I'm like, we're gonna go on our side. So we're gonna bring ourselves onto our side and we're gonna line ourselves with the back of the mat. So we're gonna have our elbow, our hips and the soles of our feet lined with the back of the mat. So you're up on your forearm, elbow is underneath the shoulder. Your waist is nice and lifted, so you're not sinking into that shoulder. We really want to pull up. Hips are nice and stacked, so they're not sinking, they're not rolling forwards or back. And then the knees are bent with the feet tucked behind. Okay, top hand can go on your hip, or it can rest in front for a little bit of support. We're only going to do about 3 of these, so not too many. So when you're ready, take a deep breath in. On the exhale, pull your abdominals in and see if you can lift your hips away from the floor, pulling your waist up without sinking into your shoulder, into this little side bend or side lift, and then we slowly lower back down. Just give me 2 more of these. So we go again, nice and slow lift. You might feel that shoulder working a little bit here. Don't have to lift high, and then we slowly lower down. So we're building up, and as you build up your strength, you'll be able to come up a little bit more and you'll start to make it a little bit more challenging. And then we lower down. Good, so that was your little side lift. Come up to a seated position now, and we're going to go into our spine twist. And we've done this, was it in our first one? I think it was our first class that we did, but I'm gonna change it. So come up to a seated position. You can have your legs crossed, you can have them in front, out to the side, bent knees, whatever you feel best doing. But you are going to ground your sit bones down and grow nice and tall through the spine. So we're going to do cross-act this time. So this is a little bit different to cathedral that we did before. So if you bring your arms in front of you and you bend your elbows and stack one forearm on top of the other, so you've created this square box shape. You're going to have your arms up at shoulder height and you're going to let your shoulders drop away from your ears. Imagine there's a countertop, right? And you're trying to push your arms down, but it's there, it's stopping you, and you're trying to look over the top of this countertop. Stay lengthened as you now twist your upper back to the side. Now what's different about this is that your arms are more free. So when we was in cathedral, it's very easy to keep everything in line. This time the arms might drift without the rest of the body. We need a little bit more concentration here to stay in line, and then we come back to center. And then we twist to the other side. Now, many of you will know, as someone that's visually impaired, carry on with that while I ramble. Being visually impaired means that I duck down a lot and quite tight through my upper back. So for me, this is quite challenging. And you might find as I turn that I'm not sitting as tall, but I am trying to sit nice and tall. So don't worry if you find that, you're struggling as you turn to really lift and things like that. Anyway, go one more time, match up to the other side. And then come back to center. Good, and then drop the arms. And let's do our little side lifts on the other side. So bring yourself over, line the elbow, the back of your hips and your feet with the back of the mat. Exactly the same position as what we did on the other side. And we make sure our hips are in line. Elbow is underneath the shoulder, so you don't want it too far in, not too far away. And we find this lift through the waist. Hand can go on the hip or it can go in front. And we take a little lift. And you might find this side feels different to the other side. Lift the hips. And then slowly come back down. You're on that ice again, you don't want to break it. Just give me 2 more of these, so I'm not doing too many. Lifting up. And slowly back down. Do that one last time. We lift up again, we don't sink into the shoulder, we find that lift. And then we slowly lower. And we roll over onto our front. And on our front, we're going to do what we did before, but we're going to add, ouch, it was on my hair, we're going to add a little bit more to it. So stretch your legs nice and long and place one hand on top of the other with your pads of your thumbs coming together to create a triangle. You're going to let your nose drop into that little gap, okay? And you're going to let your forehead rest on the hands. Let your shoulders roll down your back, so you're feeling them down into the back pockets of your trousers. If you had pockets, I was going to say if you had trousers on then. It's up to you if you're doing it at home, it doesn't really matter. But you're rolling your hip bones in towards you, so you're not sinking into your back, okay? So when you're ready, we're going to run our nose along our hands again, just a little bit, and then we find that lovely lift. We start to lift up through the upper back, not the lower back. And then we slowly come down. We tap our nose into that little gap. And then we go again. We run the nose along and we start to lift. Now, this is what we did last time. This time we're going to start to lift the hands as well, but if you get any lower back pain whatsoever, you come back down. This time, run the hands along the floor with your nose, and then this time, just a little lift. Lift your hands away from the mat and lower down. So it's like your head is glued to the hands. So as you run along and lengthen, the head stays on the hands, you start to lift just the upper back. And then you lower back down. Just give me 2 more of these. We run the nose, the hands along the floor. We find length. Then we lift slightly through the upper back. And then we lower back down. And then we do this one last time. We come up. And then we lower. Good. Come up onto the hands and knees. We're going to finish with our last little bit. So we're going to, we've done a lot of like arms and legs kind of our swimming. I just wanted to do a little bit more on the hands and knees, but add in like a little tricep dip. So last week we did some knee lifts and we're going to do them again, but we're going to add a little bit more to it. So hands are going to go underneath the shoulders, or I need to click. Shoulder width apart, hands are spread wide, or you might want to be up on your fists. This will work for the knee lift, but it might not work for the next bit, okay? So take it out if you need to. Knees are underneath the hips, hip distance apart, and we're tucking the toes under. So find your flat back, so you're not sinking, you're not arching, you're somewhere in the middle. Okay, so we're going to hover our knees like we did before. So we take a deep breath in. We exhale, we hover the knees an inch or 2 off of the mat. We slowly drop the knees down, and then we sit back into child's pose. We sit back towards the heels. From here, we're going to come up, shift back to your box, and then this time we're going to bend the elbows in towards us, lower the chest towards the floor, push back up, and then we're back ready for our knee lift. So we've got a little sequence going here. So when you're ready, we're going to hover the knees an inch or 2 off of the mat. We drop the knees down to the floor. We stretch back, child's pose. So we sit back. We come up either to box, or maybe you want to shift the weight a little further over the hands. Now a tricep push-up. We want to keep the elbows brushing almost past our rib cage. Nose goes over the hands as we lower. We straighten the arms back up, and then we go again. So carry on with that for a minute. You might just be doing the knee lift. You might be doing knee lift with a sit back in between and skipping the push-up. It's really important that you do the one that feels best. As we do the push-up, remember the elbows brush past us, and we try not to, so what can happen is we sit back towards the heels, or we do this push-up and we sink. We want to make sure that we're putting everything that we've learnt together, the shoulders away from the ears nice and stable, our pelvis stable, our back is nice and flat. Let's go one more time. Lifting through the knees, hovering before we lower. Once we lower, we sit back, child's pose. We stretch the arms long, we sit back towards the heels. We come up, we shift the weight over the hands slightly maybe, or into our box. We let the elbows bend, we lower the chest with them. We push back up, and then this time we're gonna sit back and breathe. Bring your feet together, knees open, stretch the arms long, and take a moment here just to breathe. We take a deep breath in through the nose. We fill out the entire body, allowing our corset to relax, our belt muscle. And then we breathe out, we leave any stress or tension behind. And we do that one last time, deep breath in. And breathing out. And then we'll roll up to seated. And you are done. So that was part 4 done. Repeat these as many times as you need to build up. These are almost, they're your foundation, they're your beginners, but they're almost a stage you do to find that awareness before you go on to other beginners classes where you're maybe flowing a little bit more and when you're adding a bit more. So yeah, come back to these. I come back to these all the time. And let me know if you would like to see anything similar to this or more series like this and what you'd like to see next, maybe something different. But other than that, I really hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next week for a completely new video. So take care, bye.